Sandra, welcome to another episode of Asexualise, my asexual life. This is a place for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the great big subscribe button below right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live right now and post a new video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you find it useful, helpful, insightful in any way, shape or form, or even entertaining. Or you just want to give this channel some love. In a few moments, we're going to be discussing my Asexual Guide sex book. And if you're an asexual that wants to try sex and is thinking about having oral sex for the first time, how you can actually make that a better experience for yourself. Obviously, this is going to be one of the things I'm going to be talking about in my Asexual Guide to Sex book. But first, if you don't know who I am Sandra Bellamy, author of this beautiful book, Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, a celebration of asexual diversity. I'm also the founder of asexualize.com and the founder of Asexualize Academy. Plus, I wrote this awesome fibromyalgia self-help handbook, How to Manage Fibromyalgia to Have Less Pain, More Energy and Feel Happier Like a Superhero Rock Star, and a lot of the techniques for having more energy, less pain in your life and feeling happier apply to everyone, regardless of whether you've got fibromyalgia or not, although it's targeted towards people who have fibro like me. And so on with today's video. So if you haven't already followed this channel for a while, you might not know about asexuality. Asexuality is a sexual orientation that is the lack of sexual attraction. So in my case, I don't get the want, urge or need for partnered sexual intercourse. Many asexuals don't like sex. They're sex repulsed. They're not interested in sex. They don't ever want to try it in their life even. But there are still some asexuals that are in relationships with sexuals who are willing to have sex, do feel like doing that, and or are willing or wanting or thinking about trying to have sex for the very first time ever and wondering whether they should go ahead with that or not. So my Asexual Guide to Sex book is a book I'm currently working on specifically for asexuals. It's called Asexual Guide to Sex and it has asexual sex stories in it. So people who are asexual, who lack sexual attraction but have had sex in the past, or they're on the asexual spectrum. So some of the asexual spectrum has a more sexual end of the spectrum, where some people who are grey asexual, for example, experience sexual attraction under limited, rare or specific circumstances, but not enough to want to act on it usually. So asexuality is a huge spectrum for those who are, you know, sex repulsed, hate sex, don't want anything to do with it, to those that are indifferent about it, don't mind it, to those who will participate in it. Oh, hi, John. Nice to see you. Lovely to see you. Thanks for coming on. Lots of love to you. So, yeah, so asexuality is a huge spectrum ranging from those asexuals who are sex repulsed, they hate sex, don't want anything to do with it, all the way along to the asexuals who are sex indifferent, sex positive, sex neutral, not bothered if they have it or not, and some that are willing and wanting to participate in it for whatever reason. So although asexuality is a sexual orientation that's a lack of sexual attraction, it doesn't mean to say that asexuals are, in some cases, are not physically capable of doing the act if they so wish to. Many of us don't, because we don't get the need, urge or want, and we rather be doing a lot of other things in our life. I'm an asexual who has had sex in the past. I was in sexual relationships for half of my life, so do have quite a lot of experience in that regard. And all the people that I've interviewed for my Asexual Guide to Sex book I'm currently working on, they've all had sex at some point in their life. So the book's coming on quite nicely. I'm in the middle of doing it. Oh, that's nice, John. Thank you. So this is one of the stories. I'm not going to show it you because obviously it's quite, you know, just briefly flick over so you can see that's one of the stories in it. And this is what I've been doing today. I've been writing some of my own personal story. Obviously it's scribbled, so you can't really see what it is. But I've got to type all this up. And so you can see I've been working on it a lot today myself. Now, if you're an asexual person who is thinking about doing sex or some sexual acts, one of the things that might crop up is oral sex, because a lot of people who are not asexual, that are, for example, heterosexual, they will ask the asexual person who they're either thinking about being a partner with or they're in a relationship with, if they are willing to compromise. Now, I don't think an asexual should compromise if they don't want to. If an asexual doesn't want sex, they shouldn't have it. They shouldn't do anything against their will, anything that makes them uncomfortable. And if there's a sexual person that's really pushing for sex, you don't want to do it, it's better to leave the relationship than do something that's against your will, against your desire, and that makes you feel really bad or gross or horrible. You know, don't be in that situation. There are lots of asexuals out there that could give you a happy, healthy relationship. It's better to be single and on your own forever than under that type of pressure, strain, stress, and agony. So if you don't like sex at all, you hate it, you're sex repulsed, asexual, you don't want anything to do with it, don't be in a relationship with a sexual person who needs sex and to do sexual acts, right? So first of all, you know, how to make the experience of oral sex better is, if you don't want to do it, first of all, don't do it, right? I have to make that plain and clear, because just because I'm writing an asexual guide to sex doesn't mean to say I'm telling asexuals they should have sex, right? Because if you're an asexual that doesn't want sex, you shouldn't be having it. You know, there's no point in hurting yourself emotionally, mentally, or physically over it. And if you're not ready to have sex or do sexual acts, your body will clam up anyway. You'll be under a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and it won't feel a good experience to you, right? So how can you make oral sex a better experience? So I don't have any experience of a woman on woman because I'm attracted to guys only. I've only ever been in heterosexual relationships in the past. So I've only have had oral sex with a guy. I've received it and given it. So how can you make oral sex a better experience for you as an asexual? Well, it's something I haven't thought about for a long, long time, because I haven't had sex since 2011. I've been out of that type of relationship for many years. And it's something I've never actually really got into deep in my mind and thought about what happened when I did that. How did I do it? What did I think? But obviously for the Asexual Guide to Sex book, I'm trying to help other asexuals and to think about other scenarios that they might be in, which include oral sex. Because like I said, some sexuals, they will ask the asexual, if you don't want sexual intercourse, are you willing to compromise, for example, and give me oral sex or masturbate me? That type of thing, right? It does happen. And some asexuals will be fine with it, other asexuals will hate it, and other asexuals might want to try it but not sure whether they like it or not, right? So I was thinking, like, what was it like for me giving my ex, who's a guy, oral sex? What did I think? What did I feel? What was the experience like for me? Obviously, I'm putting a lot of this stuff in the Asexual Guide to Sex book, so I'm not going to say absolutely everything in this live stream. But one of the things that I found very, very helpful, I didn't know I was asexual about that either, is I was thinking of his penis like a lollipop. So if you think of a guy's penis, right, that you're, you know, a guy that you're in love with, in committed relationship with, because I was at the time, right? I'm not talking about a one-night stand or anything like that. I don't do that. So in a serious committed relationship with you, really loving the person, right? And so you're kind of loving everything about them, really, because, you know, well, they were very abusive in some ways, so I didn't love everything about them. But in terms of sexual stuff, they were really good with me. It's weird, I know, but that's what happened. I'm thankful and grateful it didn't get bad sexually. I'm really happy for that. So in those moments, you know, it was all a lot different, a lot nicer. So so I didn't have any problems doing sexual stuff when he was like catering to my needs a lot, making me feel comfortable, nice to me in those moments, right? So so basically, in terms of oral sex, I used to think of it like my favorite lollipop. So I literally used to think about kissing, licking, stroking, sucking my favorite lollipop, and then it made the experience so much better. And that's what I remember doing. And I didn't know I was asexual then, because that's a very asexual thing to think. Because obviously asexuals, we like food, right? There's a funny thing in the asexual community where we like cake better than sex, right? So have some cake instead of sex. That's kind of an ingoing joke in the asexual community. Now, I can't actually have cake because I've got multiple food allergies. I can have sugar-free, wheat-free, gluten-free, allergy-free ice cream. So I prefer that to sex, obviously. But, you know, if you're trying to make the experience better and you're trying to think, you know, like, how can I make this experience a nice experience for me? How can I think in a positive way about what I'm doing? Because you don't want to be thinking in a negative way, because there's no point in doing it, right? So how would you think in your mind? So I used to think about it being like a favorite lollipop that I would lick and suck and kiss and touch and stroke. And that's how I dealt with giving my bloke oral sex, basically, because I was thinking about something fun like that, you know. And so I think that's really helpful, asexuals. And also I thought about it a bit like a toy, like a little thing I could play with, again, stroking and kissing and cuddling, you know, like you could do, obviously you could stroke, kiss and cuddle a cuddling toy if you wanted to. So if you kind of think of it something like this, you know, that's not harmful, something that's quite fun, that's quite attractive, you know, like imagine your very favorite lollipop if you were licking and kissing and sucking that. I mean, how would that feel? Do you know what I mean? So if you kind of picture that in your head, I think that will really, really help you. because that's what I used to do. I used to think of it like a lollipop, like one of those swizzly type of lollipops, and that's what I used to do. But I didn't realise I did that until I was analysing it today, because I'm like, okay, you didn't know you was asexual at the time, but clearly having oral sex is not something you really usually do. Like in the past, I wasn't really thinking so much about doing that. I have been in other relationships, but like when I was a teenager, I was in relationships, but I didn't give my guy oral sex then. So when I was in this long-term committed relationship for 8.5 years, it's kind of like, I got used to doing that. But I was thinking in my head, like, how did I cope? How did I think about it? Because I don't think sexuals would be thinking about that. I don't think sexuals would be thinking about it's like a favourite lollipop. But I remember that's what I was thinking about at the time. So that's how come that it can be very helpful for you if you're an asexual person who is thinking about trying sex and thinking about trying oral sex, to think about it like a favourite lollipop, because then the penis doesn't become, or whatever you're licking or kissing or touching, in my case it's a penis, in the past, not now, it makes it a lot less vulgar what you're doing. It makes it a lot more sweeter and nicer, do you know what I mean? Because you kind of think you're just doing something fun, and also think about it like a little toy, like a little play toy or something, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, if you think about it like that in more hi Sandra, I'm back, says Ray. Oh, hi Ray, lots of love, nice to see you. I've done most of the video, but you'll probably quite find it funny. I don't know if you just heard what I said, but when I used to give my ex oral sex for the Asexual Guide to Sex book, I was thinking, like, what did I do? What did I do to make the experience good for me, or okay for me, or pleasurable for me? Because I, like back then I didn't know I was asexual, because I didn't find I was asexual to 2014. My ex, I split up with him, we split up, he split up with me, whatever, in 2011, right? So, but I used to think of it like a favourite lollipop. That's what I was saying, which is quite funny, actually. And I couldn't remember that until, because I'd had to flash back to that. I mean, this morning, because I've been working on the Asexual Guide to Sex. I mean, I was working on someone's story last night, another person's story last night, and I've written all this stuff today. And a lot of this was to do with oral sex, or it was stuff that I thought about afterwards, that was leading up to that, or to do with that. I was just like kind of like writing stuff out that went on for ages. It's not all to do with oral sex, but that sparked it off. And I was thinking, like, if I was writing, because I've got to write in the Asexual Guide to Sex book, like, what is it like to have oral sex? How can you make the experience better for yourself as an asexual person? Because presuming if you want to try it, like I said, no asexual should do anything they don't want to. If they don't want to have sex, oral sex, or anything to do with it, don't do it. But I was trying to say that if you want to go for it, if you want to try it, how can you make the experience a better one for yourself? And that was what I was saying. I can remember thinking back that I just used to think of it like my very favorite lollipop, that I used to lick, kiss and suck a lollipop, and I just used to suck it. You can suck it like a baby toy or something, do you know what I mean? So you can kind of like make it fun for yourself, because if you are going to do stuff like that, you don't want to be thinking this is really horrible, this is really gross, it's really disgusting. I mean, obviously the worst part for me, and it still is the worst part for me looking back on it, was when the guy would obviously come in my mouth. I mean, this is disgusting, right? You don't, I had to spit the stuff out in the sink. Do you know what I mean? In the toilet, I couldn't be having that stuff in my mouth. It's disgusting, it's gross, and I don't want it. And that for me is the most frightening part about giving a guy oral sex, is the fact of what he does in your mouth. It's disgusting. I used to get so good in the end that most of the time I could anticipate when that was going to happen. I used to move my mouth away, so that I'll be putting all this stuff in the Asexual Guide to Sex book, because I think it's really important for asexuals, if you are going to have sex or do some sexual acts, that you can do it in a way that feel more comfortable and good and pleasurable to you, that won't feel so disgusting. Do you know what I mean? Because I think, like, I'm personally sex repulsed for me these days. I don't want to give anyone oral sex. I don't think about doing that, right? But obviously today I woke up thinking about that, because I was going to sleep, having helped one person with their story. I've sent an email off to them, reading through all this online and printing it out, and then I woke up this morning, and then I thought I better get a bit creative and start writing all about it. And I woke up thinking about giving my ex oral sex. I'm like, it's not really the thing you want to be thinking about when you first wake up, is it really? But I've been thinking about my Asexual Guide to Sex book, or like, that's what I went to sleep thinking of, that's what I was working on. So of course, like, that's what popped up in my mind, and so therefore I was writing lots, because I have to help other asexual. It's kind of difficult, because for this Asexual Guide to Sex book, I'm literally going back in my past a lot of past and remembering all these different relationships I've had, sexual relationships, and how that worked and what sexual stuff I did, what I liked, what I didn't like, how I made the situation more comfortable for myself, how I made it feel better for myself, how I made myself feel comfortable with the situation, how I even, oh, thanks for the thumbs up, really appreciate it. You know, and this is what I'm doing. So the Asexual Guide to Sex book is showing the good, the bad, and the ugly side of sex, but it's also, you know, going into how can you make it a better experience for yourself as an asexual person if you want to try it. Because the worst thing you want to do is go and have a sexual experience and be thinking really, really bad stuff. Oh, thanks, Ray. I love you supporting me. Thank you also for being on this channel right now. I appreciate you, because I know all sex is probably something not that you're particularly interested in as an asexual person, but you know, some people are. So you know, the Asexual Guide to Sex is to cover all these different types of things, because there's a lot of sexuals that will want asexuals to do that type of thing. Obviously, like I've said over and over again, if you're an asexual doesn't want to do it, don't do it. The book is Asexual Guide to Sex is not to tell you to have sex, it's to do the opposite. It's to give you an informative look at people's life experiences who are asexual and have been in sexual relationships, had sex in the past, to understand the good, the bad, and the ugly about sex, as to whether you want to try having sex or do sexual acts for yourself or not. It's a book you should buy before you even get to that stage of saying, yes, I definitely want to do this, because it's really important that you have everything laid out, all the facts of what could happen, what might happen, what your expectations were. Ray, the closest I get to sex is being licked by a dog. Yeah, I noticed that's the close you get to sex is being licked by a dog. I'm sure it's much more better experience than having sex. Oh, dear me. Yeah, I have to say that I'm personally these days, I'm a sex repulsed asexual for me, not for other people. So that means when I look to get into a relationship, I looked for predominantly just kissing with my clothes on. I don't look to have oral sex or give or receive oral sex or anything like that. So that's me. But obviously, I have done in the past. I couldn't, you know, I hadn't really thought about it and remembered what it was like until today, because it's not something that I go around thinking about. I don't go around thinking I'm a sex repulsed asexual. Let's think about oral sex and the sucking a penis today. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't enter my head. It's kind of like, ugh. But I remember thinking, you know, when I was in a serious committed relationship where I was in love with the guy and we've been together for years, you know, so it's not some casual thing I'm talking about. It's, you know, some asexuals that are in relationships with sexuals that love their partner. Some asexuals want to do these type of things to please their partner, you know? And I just want to break the stereotype of women, because there's a lot of stereotypes of women. Women shouldn't be kissing on top of the guy. Women should just let the guy lead, the guy do everything. I think that's a load of baloney overall. I think, yes, the guy wants to lead sometimes. Yes, it's good for guys to lead, but I think there's no problem with a woman, you know, being on top kissing the guy. There's no problem with a woman taking the lead. Sometimes I used to take the lead in the past in my heterosexual relationship, because I used to feel more in control. And sometimes for asexuals who lack sexual attraction, don't usually have sex, it's not something we naturally do, it's sometimes better for the asexual person to be in control. So for example, when you give the oral sex with me, with my ex, sometimes I used to be on top, so he used to be lied on the bottom of the bed, you know, he's back to the bed, and I used to be on top, like doing that to him, so that I would have a lot of freedom. You know, I would have the freedom to like pull my head back and stop doing it anytime I wanted. I could move my hands wherever I wanted, my body wherever I wanted. I could run off if I wanted. Do you know what I'm saying? There's all this space around me. Whereas if the guy's on top and you're doing all, he's really kind of like in your face. Do you know what I mean? And you can't really escape very much. He's kind of hanging over you and hovering over you. Ray, I'm lucky tonight. I have 3 girls on my bed. Yeah, 3 doggies. Actual doggies, not women. You lucky guy. I have cuddly toys. They're enough for me. I don't need anyone else. I'm quite happy being single, having cuddly toys. And no, I don't do anything with my cuddly toys like that. I might cuddle them occasionally, give them a kiss. That's about it. But yeah, so I would advise that if you are female, you know, or if you are the one giving it, to actually be on the one on top, because therefore that you can escape, you can move, you can go away from the situation, you can pull your head back, you can leave, you're not feeling like you're kind of trapped. Because if you're on the bottom, the person's leaning over you, they kind of got their hands either side of you, their arms either side of you, you kind of got their bit in your face, and it's like, it's a lot of pressure and kind of claustrophobic, and it can be a bit, like in your face, and it's hard to like pull your mouth away if you feel the guy's gonna come and you don't want it in your mouth. It's kind of really hard to do that. So I'd really stress that it's much better that you literally be on top. Really, I think it's much better if you can do that. It takes quite some, like, it depends how you are. If you're just sat down or knelt down, it's quite not too bad. But obviously if you're propping yourself up with one or two arms while you're doing that, I recommend like kind of holding it at the same time you're doing that some of the time, to sturdy what you're doing. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's really my take on how to make the experience a lot better for you, really. Obviously you have to be comfortable about doing it, like I said, in the first place. And I usually do it on a soft bed, don't do it on something hard, because you don't, if you're like, say you're sat in between the guy's legs and you're like leaning over him doing it, and you're in between the guy's legs, on a bed, that'll be fine. But if you're hitting something hard like the ground, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. Ray, you can always say get off or I bite. Yeah, I mean, obviously if you're in the bottom, but you've got to be, like, obviously if anyone's doing it, and no one should be pushing you into oral sex, no one should be pushing your heads down, which some guys do. They'll start pushing you. I'm going to be talking about this in my Asexual Guide to Sex, but you can get some guys that will push you like this to go and like suck their penis, right? You don't want any guy like that. You don't want any guy pushing around telling you what to do like that. That can lead to sexual abuse. You only want to be doing anything you want to do, and you should really discuss all this before you get into a sexual situation with a person, right? You don't, if you're a person that knows you don't want oral sex, but maybe you're okay to have actual sex with a sexual person, you need to let them know that I'm not comfortable about having oral sex. Don't expect me to do that. I'm not going to do that. Don't ever push me. Don't ever ask me. I'm not interested. If you're someone who wants to try it out, then you would say, look, I'm going to try it out this once. I don't know if I like it. If I don't like it, I'm not going to do it again. And you can even tell the person, like, if person does try and put their head like that, saying, no, I don't like that. If I want to do that, I'll do that. I don't mind you saying you like it, but I'm not going to be pushed around doing that, And if they don't listen, that's it. Just don't be with them in a relationship. You don't want any force, any pressure, any push, right? And especially if someone's really using force to push you. Like, some of them could just go like this, a little tap, because they're trying to show you in the heat of the moment what to do that they like. But if they're trying to really push your head or anything like that, don't want that. That's like sexual assault. If someone's using force or against your will, that's sexual assault. You don't want a person like that. You run for the hills and get out of there. Don't be anywhere near them, right? So you got to be, I like racing. You can always say get off or I'll bite. Yes. But you've got to think of your safety. So safety is always first. Do not do this with some random person, someone you don't know, someone you're not sure of if they'll respect your boundaries, someone who you can't communicate with or have a proper conversation with. Don't do it with any of these types of people. It should only really be done in serious, committed relationships, in my opinion, especially from a safety point of view. You should know the person, be able to have open, honest communication, be able to say no at any point. You have to make it clear before you do this, if you want to try oral sex, that if you say no, you stop, or if you physically pull your head away, that's it. The person doesn't push you, doesn't try and ask for more than you're willing to do, that you can stop at any time. With my ex, I would stop at any time doing anything I don't want to do, just like that. Even if I was in the middle of having sexual intercourse, be like, no, it's too much. I can't do it. I'm stopping now. Like, I want to stop now. It's like, yeah, sure, I am sure. That's it. So, that he was always really respectful. So there are guys out there that will respect you doing that. And you need to make sure you're with one of those type of people, whatever gender it is, that when, you say stop, that's it. Or you just stop yourself, and that's it. They don't pressurize you, they don't push you, they don't make you feel guilty or anything like that. My ex never made me feel bad or guilty about that, So it's really, really important that you have that, you do that, and you have the right to change your mind at any point. If you decide, oh no, this isn't actually for me, I thought I'd like to try it, but I don't want to anymore. You have the right to say no and walk away. You know, so don't ever think you should be pressurized or pushed into it or anything like that. I'm just saying that if you want to make the experience better for you, then, you know, like I thought about it being like my favorite lollipop that I'd want to lick, kiss and suck, because why not? It's nice. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, when the thing comes in your mouth, it's not as disgusting. And you know, I'm not sucking a lollipop, I'm sucking something else. But you know, so I would say err with caution. Don't do anything you don't want to do. If you don't want to have any sexual acts or do any sexual stuff, because I don't do this stuff now. I haven't done any sexual acts like this for years. You know, like I have dated heterosexual guys and I haven't had oral sex or done oral sex to any of them. So since like my ex, which we split in 2011, I haven't done anything like this. I don't even know the last time I did give my ex oral sex. I can't remember about that. So you know, I don't do anything. So I dated a heterosexual for 2 months. 2017, he said he you know, he knew that I wouldn't have sexual intercourse, but he likes oral sex better than sexual intercourse. Would I be prepared to do that? He said, I don't think you'd like to do that. And I said no. So these days I'm like, I don't like doing that. I don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean? So just because I did it in the past doesn't mean to say that any guy's got the right to expect me to do that or want me to do that. You know, like, well, obviously they might want me to do that. That's their prerogative, they want, but no guy, you know, can expect that, or you know, they have to accept that I'm not interested in doing that. I mean, I was on a dating site last year. I think it was Plenty of Fish. I tried, and there was one guy. He said, okay, to not having sex, but I'd want to do other things like oral sex and stuff. And I said, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to do that. So personally, for me, I refuse to do that these days. It's not something I want to do. It's not something I think about doing. I haven't even thought about doing that for years. The first time I thought about doing that was today. I thought, what was it like? What did I experience? What went through my mind? And that was the one thing I can remember. I remember thinking it's like my favorite lollipop and just lick and kiss and suck it or play with it like a toy, because that like made it fun for me. And I didn't even know I was asexual then, but you can clearly see how my brain works different to a sexual person. I don't think a sexual person would be thinking stuff like that, you know? And so I can now see, even looking back on all the sexual stuff I did in the past, how very much asexual I was, you know, how very much that, you know, those things I did was from an asexual point of view. It wasn't from a, oh, let's get it on, I really like sucking your penis. It was like, no, I thought about it being like a lollipop or a favorite toy to play with. I wasn't even thinking about it as a penis. Do you know what I mean? I mean, clearly it was, because I saw it. You know what I mean? I can see it is, but it was like, you know, like better experience because I thought about it being like my favorite lollipop or something, you know what I mean? And I would act accordingly like that, you know? And so it's really, really important that you do whatever makes your mind at ease, what puts your body at ease, what makes you feel good, if you're going to do that type of thing. Because I'm telling you, if you hate doing that type of thing, don't do it. You will literally feel really bad. It will make you feel really horrible. The whole experience will be disgusting to you, and you'll literally want to vomit probably. You know what I mean? So don't do anything you don't want to do, and don't rush into anything. You know, make an informed choice and decision if you want to do that. Sometimes you don't actually know if you want to try that until you meet the person, until you get into a relationship. You might not actually know that. Like, because I'm experienced at that, I have my own mind, I kind of know that. And obviously some asexuals just know they don't want to do it. But for some asexuals, not everything's as clear cut, you know? There's other asexuals and they're not sure if they want to try these things or not. And that's okay too. I don't want to invalidate asexuals just because they don't know where they want to or not. It's not about invalidation. It's about living your life as the asexual you are, and about your own asexual life journey. No one else's. No one has the right to tell an asexual whether they should or shouldn't be having sex. And no one has the right to tell an asexual they should have sex. You know, you shouldn't have sex if you don't want sex. No one should, regardless of what sexual orientation they are, you know? So the Asexual Guide to Sex is just to help people who are asexual specifically, you know, to make an informed choice or decision where sex is right for them or not. Obviously, the book's going to appeal to a lot of sexuals as well. There's going to be things in that book that probably adult sexuals don't even know about, because I never learned about boundaries in relationships or assertiveness. I never even heard of the word boundaries or assertiveness in terms of what it meant till 2013. It's 2020 now, but that's a lot of years of my life. If you think I was in heterosexual relationships all of my life, pretty much consistently, apart from about 6 months, from being a teenager to like 2011, And I didn't even know about boundaries and assertiveness ever in those relationships. You can understand why I ended up a lot of the time in abusive relationships, because I wasn't taught boundaries. They don't teach you that at school. They don't teach you assertiveness. They don't teach you, oh, it's okay to not want sex. Do you know what I mean? They don't really teach you stuff like that. My biology sex lesson was literally a video of a woman dressed as an egg and a man dressed as a sperm going, you know, and a woman, you know, the guy swimming with the sperm costume on towards the egg to fertilize it for a baby. That was my sex education at school. I mean, seriously. And it was singing this song going, one day my sperm will come. One day my sperm will come. And that was it. Do you know what I mean? That was the extent of my sex education at school. How is anyone supposed to navigate the sexual world, whether you're asexual, whatever sexual orientation you are? How are you supposed to navigate the sexual world and be in a relationship with a sexual person when that's all the extent of your sex education? What bugs me the most is why sex is so important in a relationship anyway. Well, yeah. To a lot, you know, to asexuals that don't want sex, it wouldn't be anyway. Good gravy. So, you know, like I don't have sex these days. I'm personally sex repulsed, and I think sex, you know, relationships better without sex personally. But the Asexual Guide to Sex book I'm writing specifically for those asexuals that are thinking about trying it. But I totally agree with you that what bugs you the most is why sex is so important in a relationship anyway, you know. I guess for some sexual people it really is, quite a lot of sexual people. You know, but I personally, you know, don't have sex these days. I don't partake in all sex these days. This is what I'm thinking about from my past when I was in sexual relationships and I didn't know I was asexual. This is what I did with the long-term committed relationship with an ex, you know. It happens, you know. So the Asexual Guide to Sex is a book I'm working on. It's my second book for asexuals. You know, I'm writing more and more of my story stuff. Like I've done all these pages today. It's going to be an interesting read. It really, really does show the difference between an asexual mind compared to a sexual mind, and kind of attitude and thoughts and feelings and emotions about sex. So, and the Asexual Guide to Sex, I'm hoping that a lot of sexuals will buy it as well, because the more sexuals that understand asexuality, the more that when we're dating, they might actually say, are you heterosexual? You know, because everyone still assumes that whoever's into dating is heterosexual, and that gets really annoying as well. You know, it's like, don't assume that the person in front of you is heterosexual. Ask them what sexual orientation they are. Don't assume that everyone's into sex. Do you know what I mean? Ray, I not had sex since 2008. Good for you, Ray. That's really good. I mean, I haven't had sex since 2011. I have to say they're the best years of my life. You know, from 2011 to 2020 we're in now. Ray's even longer than me. You know, I don't miss sex whatsoever. Overall, I wouldn't say anyone's missing out on not having sex. Anyone who's a virgin, good, you're not missing out on anything. I don't see the big hoo-ha over sex. I don't think you need to have it in a relationship. I don't think you have to have it. I don't think you should have it if you don't want it. There are sexual people who do want sex, who really do need or feel they need that in a relationship. You know, and it does bug me as well about, you know, why sex is so important in a relationship. But I guess for some sexuals who have a high level of sexual appetite, it's kind of a must for them a lot of the time. And you know, that's why they want to have it, do it and stuff. But you know, like I have been asked before if I will compromise, and I say no. You know, because I'm really happy being single. I don't need a guy. I used to always need to be in relationships. Eddie, welcome. High five to you. Eddie is not asexual, but is in a relationship with an asexual person and not having sex with them. And committed monogamous relationship, I have to say. Welcome, Eddie, to the party. Eddie, I have not had sex in 2012. Oh, Ray, my job is exciting. Yes, exactly. So asexuals who are not interested in having sex find a lot more things interesting, such as like their jobs, their hobbies, their interests, stuff like that. So you know, when we're in relationships, no non-sexual relationships, you know, there's a lot more different stuff going on, because when we're not having sex, we can devote a lot more of that time to hobbies, interests, you know, being more productive with our day, and we can get a lot more excitement and pleasure out of our hobbies and interests than we ever could or would with sex. Do you see what I mean? So we don't need to have sex in order to have a really good thrill. We can get a thrill out of things that excite us that are not sexual. So yeah, so Eddie hasn't had sex since 2012, and they're not asexual, so that's really good. Eddie, the video pic had me laughing. I don't know if you were trying to vomit or having an oral fixation craving. Exactly, Eddie. It was kind of supposed to be both. Not an oral fixation craving, but it was meant to be the finger in the mouth was meant to be the YouTube thumbnail was meant to be a cross between looking like a penis in my mouth and also wanting to vomit and put my fingers in my mouth and vomit. I thought that will appeal to both asexuals who absolutely hate sex and want to vomit right now from listening to this actual title, even like how an asexual could make oral sex more better experience for them, and also people who were itchy interested in partaking in oral sex. So I thought that was a very good thumbnail. I thought it'll suit both sets of people, because obviously I am aware that there's a lot of asexuals on the asexual spectrum who absolutely hate sex, are sex repulsed. I thought it was an aiming instruction. Oh, good, John. Aiming instruction. Ice pop is the best pick. So Eddie, did you hear the rest of my video? That's what basically when I was having oral sex with my ex, I used to think about it as my favorite lollipop. Did you know that's what I said? Because obviously you've just joined in the conversation. So I don't know even you saying ice pop, because obviously that is a lollipop. If you were listening to my previous conversation, that's my main point, is when I used to give my ex oral sex, I used to think about it being my favorite lollipop, and that was, oh, you just got here. See, you missed the best bits. So yeah, so that I used to think about it being my favorite lollipop, and licking and kissing and sucking and stroking my favorite lollipop. That made the whole experience a lot better. But I didn't know I was asexual back then. But I do think that's a very, very asexual thing to think. I don't think John, a stick of rock candy would do as well. Yeah, but I'm not really into rock candy. Like, you know, the little lollipops you can get, which are like coloured, flavoured. Those are the type of things I like. You can get them sugar-free as well. You know, the ones that are on little white sticks with a little like, you know, like a little sweet on the end. Those are the ones I like. So I used to think about it being something like that. But I know what you mean. So obviously rock candy is quite hard, but we've better. These moments are just fun. Yeah, so I don't, you know, that's how I remembered oral sex, because I'm trying to write this asexual book, right? I'm trying to write my bits, right? Which are obviously really scribbled and you can't really read them, which I'm glad at the moment because I don't want to give everything away in the book. But I'm trying to do videos of what's happening with me when I'm going through the book, you know, because I'm really eager to get this Asexual Guide to Sex book finished now. And I wanted to let people in on what's going on in the book, what type of things they can expect, what type of help and guidance, and how, you know, as an asexual person, it can be made more fun experience if the asexual wants to try sex. If they don't do it, right? I want to make it clear, none of the Asexual Guide to Sex videos are to tell an asexual they should have sex. Don't have sex if you don't want to. Do not do it, right? It'll make the experience rubbish anyway. And you shouldn't be doing stuff you don't want to do, right? So I just wanted to make that clear. But yeah, I remember back then, which I don't think is a sexual thing to think, because obviously I didn't realize asexual. I remember thinking, oh, this is like my favorite lollipop. Just, you know, I was just thinking about like that, like lick, kiss and suck it, stroke it and do things to it. And like, I also thought about it being like a toy, like a play toy as well. So those are the things that made it well, I don't know if you can call it enjoyable, but it was okay, you know. It was quite, because I was thinking about my favorite lollipop. I guess that was quite nice in that way. But when it came to the stuff going, everyone cover their ears. But when it came to the stuff actually coming in my mouth, that's the stuff I hate. That's the stuff I detest, and that's stuff I fear the most. I didn't actually. How did you find out you were asexual? Okay, thank you for the question, Lala. La 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 la. So I found out I was asexual in 2014. So when I split up, well, when my heterosexual ex split up with me, my long-term ex that is, in 2011, November the 5th, 2011, I reprogrammed my mind to be happy being single. Thanks for the thumbs up. Love all the thumbs up. And yeah, if you haven't already given a thumbs up, please give a thumbs up because it really helps the channel. So basically, yeah, I was like, since a teenager, I'd always been in heterosexual relationships pretty much for all of my life, apart from about 6 months. And so then in 2012, I swore that I didn't want to have a relationship. Well, from November 2011, I swore I didn't want a relationship for a year. I tried to stay single because it's kind of hard for me to stay single usually because I get a lot of guys interested in me. And I went to a coaching academy course and reprogrammed my mind to be single. So I didn't start dating. It was just under a year later in November. And I'd never actually done dating before. I'd done only kind of like being in a relationship. But because I was trained to be happy being single, then I thought I better try dating and not just get into a relationship with a guy, which is what I usually do, because I didn't want to make the mistakes I've made in the past. So I noticed that when I was there was the first guy that was really, really keen on me was a Portuguese guy. He used to come into my work. That's how he saw me. And I was interested in him, but I wasn't interested in sex. And when he was kissing me and stuff, he wanted to have sex with me. And I just couldn't do that again. You know, he's a very, very good looking guy. I mean, I'm actually still friends with him today. He's the only, he's the only guy that's broken my heart, because he did really break my heart. I stayed friends with, but I'm not close friends with him or anything like that. But he works at a place where I go to eat food. And I can't eat very much and go in many places in my city. So I kind of do see him. But I went in there and braved. I'm okay now with everything. You know, he's got a fiance. Everything's good. Basically, I told him I didn't like sex. I didn't want to do it, right? And then I had other people that I dated, and I had a Bangladesh guy. I think that was in 2013, and I just couldn't bring myself to have sex with him. However really good looking he was, I was with him, and I forced myself because I couldn't have sex with him to be naked in the shower and wash him down just so he could get like a sexual thrill, because I wasn't interested in having sex. Like, I noticed, like, doesn't matter what good looking guy I dated, I couldn't bring myself to have sex again. And there was another guy I dated, I think he was Bangladesh as well, that's right, and he said he wanted sex with me. I said I couldn't do that, and it was just like one night I dated him and he wanted me to be his girlfriend. So, oh, it's fine, I can have sex with other women and you can be my girlfriend. I'm like, no, that's not acceptable. Just because I don't want sex doesn't mean to say I don't want a monogamous relationship. And at that point, I just became so frustrated and so upset that every guy expected sex at the end of the night. And I got to the stage with these guys where I was wetting myself nearly in my pants because of the expectation and anxiety of sex at the end of the night. And I didn't want it. I knew I didn't want it. And I just couldn't do it anymore. It didn't matter how hot looking aesthetically the guy was, how physically, in terms of like aesthetic appearance, I was attracted to him. However much I might like to touch his like shoulders, kiss him, all that type of thing. So some sensual attraction with the upper body. I just couldn't bring myself to have sex ever again. And I thought, I've got to give up being on dating sites. I've got to give up looking for a relationship. I just can't have sex anymore. And what happened is I went to see a counsellor. What people probably don't know so much is I didn't know I was going to see this counsellor originally. I had some counselling for anxiety and other issues, and one of it, I did have some sexual abuse when I was 15, which is actually in my first book, Asexual Perspectives book. If you didn't know, the link's down below. I had it at 15, and I didn't really think about being sexual abuse. I just thought it was a bad incident that happened in my life, and that's how I've always thought about it. But when I was having this counselling, she started saying about, oh, it is basic sexual abuse, and did I want to have group therapy? And I'm like, no, I don't want that. And anyway, when we're going through the counselling, she said, every time I ask you a question, you ask me a question, you're then answering it, so you don't really need counselling anymore. I don't feel you need it anymore. And so I said, that's fine. So I left counselling. I thought I wasn't going to go back to counselling. I've been told that I could counsel myself better, basically, that I knew all the answers. It's just a matter of confidence, right? So I left there, and then that was it as far as I was concerned. About a year later, I think it was, I got a phone call saying, oh, you've now got this counsellor that can see you. You've been on the waiting list for ages. Now this counsellor can see you. I said, well, I don't know, because I haven't actually I haven't asked to see another counsellor. As far as I was concerned, I wasn't having any more counselling. And anyway, I believe everything happens for a reason in life. Fate comes when we least expect it, and everything happens for a reason. So I don't think there's any coincidence. So I thought there's got to be a reason why I'm meant to see this woman. right? There's got to be some reason. I couldn't think what it was, unless it's to do with the previous sexual abuse I'd spoke about that I thought we weren't going to go into. So I thought maybe it's to do with that. Maybe they put me down to see an extra counsellor, because I didn't ask for any more counselling. I got told I didn't need it. So I thought everything happens for a reason, right? This has just happened. You need to go and see his counsellor. I don't know what for, don't really understand it, but I believe things come into your life for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. I'm very spiritual in that way, very believing in that way. I've learned that in my life, right? Especially in my case, I'm very intuitive. So I thought, I've got to go and see this counsellor. So I spoke to her on the phone. She introduced herself, and I thought she seemed nice on the phone, right? So I was feeling good, and I was waiting. I've been to the place where she was to have counselling previously by someone else. So I went there, and actually, the previous counsellor, she made me worse. So the previous counsellor was bad because I went for anxiety, and she was trying to help me, and actually, well, meant to be helping me, but she made worse and going towards depression again, which I freed myself of, so I had to stop seeing her. So kind of wasn't such a good memory. But anyway, I went in the place, and I thought, I've been here before. I thought, to cut a long story short, I've been here before, but I mean, not to see this woman. She seemed really nice, so I waited, and I thought this is going to be, good experience. So I went and I told her, and I sat there explaining to her. I didn't really go into too much about the sexual abuse. I think I said that, that I had that, and I wasn't sure why I was here because I didn't think I needed counselling. But I did say to her, I have got this problem, and it's the fact that I don't want sex in a relationship. I really love kissing. I love affection, but I don't want sex in a relationship. I just can't do it anymore. Even the idea of it makes me nearly wet myself, and I don't know what to do because I feel I can't date or have a relationship anymore, but I really love kissing and cuddling. I don't know what to do about it. And she turned around and said, you're going to have sex if you want to keep a good guy. And so I was absolutely disgusted, like, I thought that can't be right. How can you tell someone that they have to do something to keep a guy that they don't want to do, that they hate? I thought that can't be right. How can the guy be any good for that person if he wants her to do something that she doesn't want to do or like doing just to keep him? That just seems so wrong. So I was really, really upset about that session because it's the worst thing I could have heard. It's the last thing I wanted to hear. It's the opposite of what I wanted to hear. I didn't get any support or anything. I just felt really bad. And obviously, I thought this woman was good to go to, but I thought, if she's given that advice, surely it's really bad advice. It was horrible. I thought there was only me that was like this in the world. There was no one else like me. I was on my own. And so therefore, I thought I was going to have to give up on dating relationships for good. Because if that was the case, if I'm going to have sex in order to keep a good guy, then I can't be doing with that. I can't be in relationships anymore or dating. And it was like real shock to me. But when I thought about it, I thought, can't be right. So I went home and I Googled, I love kissing, but not sex. And that's when it came up with asexuality and asexuality.org. And I went in the forums. I'm like, oh my God, there's all these people like me. There's people who want relationships without sex. There's people who can live and love without sex. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it was like a huge awakening. I thought I was the only one in the world. The entire world, planet, universe. Honestly, I didn't know of anyone else like me at all, ever. I'd never heard of anyone like me. And so that's when I found out. And then I took about 3 weeks to do my research properly to find out what type of asexual I was, to read around the topic more. And on asexuality.com, which is a dating site, I went and found a guy who used to hold meetups, asexual meetups in London. And he looked very experienced. So I messaged him saying, what type of asexual am I? Because I'm not sure. I know I'm romantic towards guys, but I don't know what else I am, because I like kissing and quite a lot of people don't seem to be into that. And he said, oh, you're grey asexual. So I looked at grey asexual, and it was someone who experiences sexual attraction under limited or rare or specific circumstances, but not enough to want to act on it. So I thought, because I'd had sex in the past, and because I didn't realise I had arousal but not sexual attraction, I thought I was an asexual who did experience sexual attraction but didn't want to act on it. I thought he was right about that. And then as I did my research, and as I started looking in the forums, they all started talking about sex, which I thought was weird for asexuals, right? Which I'm talking about that now. And I thought, this is really weird. They talk more about sex than sexuals. And they were talking about it in forums, and it's very matter of fact, very educational, but they kept bringing it up. And I'm like, my bits started to feel aroused, my genital areas. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on down there? Like, I've never experienced this consciously before. I've only experienced this in a relationship before. And then I realised that what I'd experienced for years when I was with my heterosexual relationship was when I was in my heterosexual relationship with my heterosexual ex, that I had experienced high levels of arousal with him. So when he would kiss me, touch me, do sexual stuff with me, my arousal levels were really, really high. So therefore it meant kind of like leading on to sex more of a natural experience for me as someone who gets aroused easily. And it kind of like, you know, like if you're aroused and your body's feeling aroused, kind of you want to relieve it more. So that kind of like naturally progresses. But I realised that I'd never looked at my ex and thought I actually want sex with him. I hadn't looked at any of my exes and never thought that. And then I'm thinking, well, you're not an asexual who experiences sexual attraction, because if you were, you'd have the need, urge, or want for sex and partner sexual intercourse. You'd be thinking about it, wanting it, needing it, and looking at your guy and thinking, God, I want sex with you, which I never thought. And so I realised that I mistook my high levels of arousal for years for sexual attraction. And I wasn't actually a grey asexual, textbook definition grey asexual. But because I love the passionate kissing, especially with the tongue, I've got some sexual behaviour, I love bodies intertwined with clothes on, I love being really, really close to my guy. That's when I realised that I have these grey areas. And no, I'm not a textbook grey asexual, because I definitely don't experience any sexual attraction. I have these high arousal levels sometimes, and I do have lots of passion, and I can be quite erogenous with kind of the upper body and sitting on my guy's lap and all that type of thing, which is quite sexual in behaviour. So that's why I go under a heteromantic grey A for grey areas, but I'm not textbook grey. I kind of don't really fit in totally 100% to the asexual spectrum. I do with the heteromantic part, because I'm definitely heteromantic. I'm only attracted to guys romantically, and I'm not actually a textbook grey A, but I feel I have these grey areas, which means it's on dating sites, I don't feel I can call myself just a heteromantic asexual, because a lot of the guys, for example, on dating sites, asexual dating sites, a lot of them don't even like kissing. Or they just like minimal kissing, not deep, passionate tongue kissing like I could do for like 1 to 3 hours, for example. Or bodies intertwined with clothes on. They don't want that intimacy with clothes on. And so I find myself stuck. Like I'm too sexual in behaviour for some asexual guys, and I'm not sexual enough in behaviour for sexual guys. Therefore, I'm a bit kind of stuck. Obviously, in the past, when I had sex and was doing sexual stuff, that would sometimes be okay for my exes. But having said that, a lot of them cheated on me. So obviously I wasn't having sex as much as, you know, a sexual person would, or wanting to do as much like that, you know, as the other person, you know, as a heterosexual would. So that's kind of why they probably cheated on me, because I'm not really designed to have or want loads of sex. Do you know what I mean? And I was doing it like when my ex was instigating. I'd rather have done the washing up and listen to music, and I hate washing up, you know, because I wasn't really that bothered about it. I used to like his finger, I used to like him touching me, if I'm honest. I used to like him kissing me, but that was about it. I wasn't bothered about anything else. I could have left sex and never had it. I mean, I'm glad I tried it. I'm always glad that I kind of tried sex, that I've had that experience of what it was like. Personally, for me, I guess maybe that's because I do have high arousal levels, I have got grey areas, so I'm glad that I tried it. If I'd have known that everyone says it's painful when you first try it, if I'd have known that before I tried it, probably wouldn't have tried it. Probably would be thinking, what if, all my life maybe, and I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't want the pain, and just like, it's not for me, gross. But because I've tried it, I've had bad experiences and good experience of it, I'm okay. You know, I'm not like, oh, you know, like I'm not sex repulsed for anyone else, but personally for me these days, I don't see myself ever having sex ever again. I don't really see myself giving oral sex again, although I probably could physically do it if I was to like go back and think of it as a lollipop maybe again. But at the moment, I just kind of think it's gross. It's not something I want to do. So in that moment, when I'm thinking back, I remember my state of mind back then is I used to think it like my favorite lollipop, or like a little play toy or something, but it's not something I would really think about doing again. I don't know if I was in a long-term committed relationship if I could really do that stuff again. I don't think I could. I don't think I'd want to. You know, I don't see it's something that I really ever want to do again in my life. You know, obviously thinking back to that time, I can remember how I did it. I can remember what I was thinking. I can remember the experience wasn't that bad. You know, like when I was sucking and licking and kissing it and stroking it, it wasn't that bad. You know, I can remember that, which is kind of weird. I haven't been thinking about that. Because obviously I've been getting on with my life without sex involved in it, or any sexual acts. I haven't done that. You know, I haven't done, you know, like I haven't done that with a guy. So it's kind of like really weird looking back now to like how I lived my past life. It's kind of like it's like kind of looking through a window or something. But I know I can, you know, like I'm having to try to think of the feelings and the experience I had and my thoughts going through my mind. It's kind of really, really weird. It's looking back in your past life. It's kind of really, really bizarre. A bit, you know, because when I do this book, this Asexual Guide to Sex, I'm only going to be thinking about this type of thing more and more. Like, how did I do this? How did I think about it? How did I get through it? But if you look at it now, you can tell I was asexual because what blooming person usually thinks, oh, this is like my favourite lollipop. Let's give it a lick, kiss and suck. This is fun. You know what I mean? You just don't think like that. Only an asexual person would really think like that. Do you know what I mean? Because we think about food being better than sex and we like food and stuff, and we're kind of quite innocent, some of us in that way. Do you know what I mean? And so kind of like, I think it's a very asexual thing to think. Do you know what I mean? So I hope that's answered your question. La 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 la. I really hope it has. Hi Shrek. Like a Shrek Adventureland actually in London. It's really, really awesome. But yeah, so I hope that's answered your question. La 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 la. And I want to thank you for joining the stream tonight. Yeah, I hope you've been enlightened and find it informative. I'm going to go because my voice is getting a little bit hurt again. And anyway, I think I've discussed enough about oral sex tonight and what you should do to make the experience a bit better for you if you're asexual. Who wants to try it? If you don't want to try it, forget it. Yeah, if you've got any comments, leave them down below after the stream. And I want to say thank you everyone tonight for attending. Thank you, John, so much. Lots of love to you. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, la 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 la. And the question about my asexuality. Thank you, Ray, so much. Lots of love to you. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for answering my question. You're welcome. La 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 la. It's really nice. Thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. Anyway, and bye to Shrek too. Lots of love to all of you. And if you haven't given this video a thumbs up already, please do so. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the great big subscribe button down below and hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I go live like now, post a new video. I am asexual, so I lack sexual attraction. And I'll see you on the next video live stream. Take care. Thanks very much for taking part, everyone. Bye.